Okay. Sorry. So here we are again. Welcome to the Buddhist Path of Awakening course. This is the foundational course. We're working our way through we have started again with the profound treasury of the ocean of Dharma, which is organized into 3 volumes. The first volume is called The Path of Individual Liberation. And what this is that Trungpa Rinpoche, Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche, a Tibetan teacher, he died in 1987, but he was here from about 1970 until then. And most of those years, about 15 of them, every year he took a group of 150 to 250 students into retreat for 3 months. And during those times, they would practice, of course, sitting meditation, similar to what we do tonight, same thing really. And as well as they would study. And the study was organized into 3 levels. In the Tibetan tradition, there are 3 levels of teachings that are called yanas, which means vehicles. And there is the Hinayana, which literally means lesser vehicle, although he preferred foundational vehicle as a translation for it. The Mahayana, which is the greater vehicle, and the Vajrayana, which is Tantra, Mantrayana, Vajrayana, Tantrayana, those are all synonyms. And only the Vajrayana really made it to Tibet full blown. The Mahayana went to China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and also in Mongolia. The Vajrayana made it into China a little bit and even into Japan a little bit, but not fully blown, and also made it up into Mongolia. But especially it was imported into Tibet over many centuries, and this is where the Vajrayana really had its roots. So these are 3 volumes, digested talks from those 15 years, digested into these 3 volumes. And we are in volume 1, which is on the Hinayana, so-called, and it's titled The Path of Individual Liberation, because that's one of the keynotes of this stage of the path, is that one seeks one's own personal enlightenment and freedom from suffering. And we are on chapter 22 and 23 tonight. Is that right? Yes. And if you want to be on the mailing list to receive emails about the reading assignments and more, also there's a discount that Shambhala Publications has given our students on this book, The Profound Treasury of the Ocean of Dharma, volumes 1, 2, and 3. And so if you want to be on this email list, put your email in chat, and I'll send you some emails, and then you can always unsubscribe anytime you like. So tonight, Philip is leading off, and I'll turn it over to you, Philip.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. Let's bow in. So chapter 22, Simplicity. You remember way back when we started this volume, Chögyam Trungpa spoke about 3 main parts of the Dharma: Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna, discipline, meditation, and knowledge. This is way back on page 27. He's talking about those divisions. Last week, we finally finished the Shila discipline part, and tonight we start the part on Samadhi, or meditation. So this part of the book is divided into 5 sections. The chapter I'll be talking about tonight, Simplicity, starts the first section, which is, in turn, Shamatha, the practice of mindfulness. If you've looked ahead, you've noticed the 5th section is called Vipassana, the practice of awareness. Shamatha, mindfulness, Vipassana, awareness. So this is a simple construction. But be forewarned, it's not so straightforward. So I want to take a minute here because for years, I was confused by the terminology used to describe meditation practices. And I hope to save you all some trouble here at the outset. Many teachers refer to shamatha, not vipassana, as awareness practice. They refer to vipassana as insight practice. Even with this chapter we're reviewing tonight, this chapter that leads off the section called shamatha, the practice of mindfulness, this chapter introduces awareness in the very beginning and basically stops discussing mindfulness altogether after a couple of pages in order to shift its focus to awareness. So words can get confusing. In Buddhism, they say, think of fingers as pointing toward the moon, right? We do our best to point the way. It is impossible to carve awareness out of shamatha. Shamatha is awareness practice. Mindfulness is only the very first step of shamatha. It's a very necessary first step. Mindfulness results in taming the mind, taming the wild horses, simply so we can begin the journey. The journey is awareness. It is awareness that eventually takes us from samsara to nirvana, and then beyond even that. Words are confusing. I've heard of a Lama who maintains that shamatha is not a meditation practice at all. Clearly, he's thinking of only the mindfulness component of shamatha when he says them. In our own small sangha, we have a tendency to sidestep this confusion by conflating words. We talk about mindfulness awareness and make it one word. And we talk about shamatha vipassana and we make it one word. But that's not a perfect solution either because it de-emphasizes insight meditation, which arguably is the most important meditation of all. So bear with me here for a minute. It might be helpful to think of awareness as an arc, a continuum that can overlay the arc of shamatha vipassana. So ultimately, there's only one indivisible awareness, of course. But as a teaching aid here, we could divide awareness into three categories. We can talk about normal awareness, meditative awareness, and pure awareness. And we'll put them on the same order: normal awareness, meditative awareness, and pure awareness, and shamatha to vipassana. Awareness is always present. It's like breathing, like thinking. We cannot function without it, but we can function without recognizing it. And that's what we normally do. So underline this. Know that recognizing awareness is one of the major goals in Buddhism. Recognizing awareness is one of the major goals in Buddhism. And shamatha helps us achieve that goal. So down here at normal awareness, there are two forms. One is characterized by distraction with no resemblance to meditative behavior at all. The second is attentive and present, and those are characteristics that are associated with meditation. So we're still down here, right, with normal awareness. And what mindfulness does, we're down here with mindfulness too, it moves us from that distracted form to that attentive form. But neither form recognizes awareness itself. So we're just starting. So as we move up to meditative awareness, we get to a place where meditative awareness requires some degree of being aware of awareness itself. Meditative awareness requires intention and recognition. So this shift, this will eventually happen in shamatha, sometimes often automatically. So we talk about resting in awareness or meditating without an object like the breath, or meditating on open awareness. This all begins in shamatha, and then it starts to blend over into vipassana. As meditative awareness deepens, we may begin to experience what we call pure awareness, the very nature of awareness, the nature of mind itself, the nature of reality. Now, this is clearly beyond the realm of shamatha, and it's well into Vipassana. So now we're moving way over here on the curve. And this is insight meditation. So are you still with me? It's shamatha to Vipassana. It's mindfulness awareness to it's mindfulness meditation to awareness meditation to insight meditation. And it's normal awareness, distracted to attentive, what we're doing now, to meditative awareness, to pure awareness. So they're all going on the same arc. And we're right here. We're at the mindfulness meditation, normal awareness beginning. So this aspect of shamatha is sometimes defined as calm abiding or stabilizing meditation. It's also referred to as tranquility meditation. It's where we start. It's taming the wild horses. In the chapter that John will talk about soon, Chögyam Trungpa uses the metaphor of drunken elephants. I've read this book a few times, but I'd forgotten that. But I won't be able to think of mindfulness without thinking of sending drunken elephants to rehab after tonight. Maybe a better metaphor is to think of a panicked child, right? See, a lot of you guys are parents. So you've got a child who's just like full of anger and full of fear and totally panicked. And all you can do is just love that child and calm that child down before you can do anything else. Before you can even identify the problem, much less solve it, you need to calm that child down. That's what mindfulness does. That's what this first part of shamatha does. Don't get caught up in the words too much. Words, again, they're just fingers pointing at the moon. Let's unpack this chapter. Basically, in this chapter, Chögyam Trungpa makes the argument that meditation is the most important thing you could ever possibly learn, full stop. So let me say that again. Meditation is the most important thing you could ever possibly learn, period. He makes the case for simplicity in order to bring Buddhism to the West. And in terms of mindfulness, that's worked spectacularly well. It's penetrated every aspect of our culture since he was teaching. It's in prisons, it's in schools, hospitals, corporations of all kinds. But that's really all that made it that far, that broadly. It's like with yoga's introduction to the West. All of the spiritual underpinnings have been left behind along the way. But it's a start. Chögyam Trungpa goes on to talk about his desire to teach shamatha as an experiential practice, a personal experience. And it is just that. It's in your heart. That's where it will work. And it's different for each of us. Then he makes this outrageous promise that meditation can free us from all of our suffering. We're on pages 174 to 175 now. Meditation can free us from all of our suffering. He talks about shamatha being the means to free ourselves from ill birth or distortion. And what he means there, he's talking about delusion, misapprehension of reality, the root cause of all of our suffering. He does this through a series of Buddhist triads. He talks about the three lower realms, body, speech, and mind, the three primary kleshas or emotions. So those are the hell realm and the hungry ghost realm and the animal realm. And that's, here he's using those to describe suffering. And body, speech, and mind is using that as a description of us. And the three kleshas, the three emotions, passion, aggression, ignorance, he's using that to illustrate our distorted view of reality and the root cause of all of our problems. On these pages, he links these together. He links body to the hell realm and anger. He links speech to the hungry ghost realm and desire. He links mind to the animal realm and discursive thoughts and ignorance. And that's helpful. What's important is he promises that meditation can free us from all of that. And then this very important final part is you have to practice for that to work. You have to practice to realize freedom. So thinking about this, you realize that the Buddha made the same promise. What Chögyam Trungpa is talking about here are the Four Noble Truths once again. After we finish this part on meditation, we'll go into the next part on the Four Noble Truths. There'll be 10 chapters on that, but just to remind you, they are the truth of suffering, right? Those are the three realms he's talking about here. The truth of the cause of suffering, those are us, our delusions, our distorted view of reality, passion, aggression, and ignorance. The truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and that is meditation, Buddhism, this practice, and the truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering. Practicing the practice, practicing meditation, practicing Buddhism. So meditation can free us from all of our suffering. That's the heart of this chapter. That's the lesson at the heart of this chapter. Meditation can free us from all of our suffering. It starts with shamatha, which starts with mindfulness. That's where we are. The remainder of the chapter are a series of bullet points. Chögyam Trungpa talks about looking and letting go. He talks about relaxation without defense mechanism. He talks about mindfulness of the here and now. He talks about the importance of being fully present, of showing up. He talks about loosening up and being aware at the same time. He talks about openness and clarity of being like a sieve. He insists that the awareness developed from simple mindfulness practice needs to continue off the cushion. That's what this is all about, learning to see, becoming aware. And you learn it on the cushion and you carry it out into life. He says, awareness should take place constantly, 24/7. It is in post-meditation that experience becomes real. Think of it. Attention leads to awareness, which leads to appreciation. Appreciation of our entire world. We can fall in love with our entire world, all of it. The good, the bad, the ugly. It all starts here. Over and over, Chögyam Trungpa hammers home the need to be present. He talks about simply being. We are simply being here. We are, after all, human beings. He concludes by saying that shamatha is the point where you begin to behave like a Buddha. He describes the development of an unconditioned mindfulness where you're always here, automatically saying, ready for anything. Just being here without preconceptions is possible. Mindfulness can become natural and real, and at the same time, very personal. So please don't get hung up on the words. Words are just fingers pointing to the moon. This chapter is titled Simplicity, and it is very simple. There are really only 3 takeaways from this chapter, 3 sentences, 7 words. You can write them down if you want. 1, just sit. Just sit. 2, wake up. Wake up. 3, be here now. Be here now. Thank you for your attention. I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you, Philip. So now we're on chapter 23, called Following the Example of the Buddha. And it starts out, carry on from what Philip was saying, that meditation is about experiencing reality and being as real as possible. First, you need to tame your mind, because your mind is just wild. It's going off in all directions. And to do so, you use your thoughts as starting points for working on yourself. You are aware of the thoughts, you see them, and you come back to the object of meditation. And that object can be the breath, in the case of shamatha, and it can be this open space of reality, in the case of vipassana. When it becomes the open space of reality, then our meditation is beginning to become something we can do in daily life. It becomes meditation in action. It becomes much more a part of ourselves. I want to go back a little bit to what impedes meditation or awareness or experiencing reality. These dreams that we have. And we've discussed this before, but I'm going to mention it again. It basically has to do with neurosis, neurotic mind, confused mind. And this is described in the Buddhist teachings in a variety of ways. One of the most important was referenced in the last chapter, the 6 realms of being. These are 6 portraits of different styles of neuroticism, of craziness, ranging from the mild to the extreme. The 3 lower realms, they're called, are the hell realm, that's the worst, the realm of the hungry ghosts, pretas in Sanskrit, and the animal realm. These are the 3 lower realms. The hell realm is the realm of hatred, ignorance. You see, you're constantly caught up in all of these realms in I-other propositions. You believe in the existence of I, you believe in the true existence of other, and the relationship between I and other is problematic, to say the least. In the hell realm, you see the other as a complete threat. Constantly, you're under attack. And so there's great fear and suffering and pain. Moving up a realm, in the hungry ghost realm, it's a little milder. You experience the world as a situation of deprivation. You don't have what you need, so there's constant hunger. And you feel that no matter how much you consume, you're never satisfied. These are hungry ghosts. Sometimes you might have met someone like this. I remember one person in college who I always felt was hungry no matter where he was and with whom he was. Above that is the animal realm. This is the realm of stupidity. You can see that the neurosis is becoming more sort of milder, you might call it. And in the realm of stupidity, an animal just sees the world as an object of consumption, something to eat or not eat, and very little more, and is very habitual, has a very limited range of response, constantly operating out of habit. Above that is the human realm, which is the realm of passion and constant desire, but on a very sort of worldly, mundane level. So you might say that the metaphor for the human realm is hearth and home, sitting in front of a fireplace having a glass of really good sherry and with your dog at your feet is our ultimate human realm. And again, we are in constant relationship with other as an object of desire, an object of something we might get pleasure from. Moving up a realm from that is the realm of the jealous gods. These are individuals who see the possibility of heaven. They haven't achieved it yet. And so they are looking at heaven and storming the gates of heaven. I think sometimes I used to have clients when I was coaching who were Wall Street traders, and they're constantly looking at all the people who have made millions and millions, if not billions of dollars, and wishing they were them. And they are trying to storm the gates of heaven. And a lot of these people are very unscrupulous, as I learned as a coach. And above that are the people who have made it. They're the gods, and they're congratulating themselves. And they're living in a realm of pleasure where everything they see is beautiful, everything they smell is perfume, everything they eat is ambrosia, and they make love with a glance rather than having to go the sloppy way that human beings do. Of these six realms, the best realm to be in is the human realm. It's got kind of it has the optimal combination of suffering and lack of suffering. It's got enough suffering to motivate us to tread the path to enlightenment, but not so much suffering that we are completely consumed by it, nor is there so much pleasure, well, there can be, but generally not in the human realm, that we're not motivated to tread the path. So the human realm is the best realm. It also, they say, you have the best equipment, both mental and physical, for treading the path, and that's a whole other story. But the beings of the other realms, the gods, the jealous gods, the animals, the hungry ghosts, and the hell beings, can't really tread the path to enlightenment. They have to die and be reborn eventually as human beings in order to do it. Meditation is about waking up from these realms. These realms are all about dreams. We see the other in the relationship of the particular passion that dominates our realm. So you can be, basically you experience all of these passions, but you might be a person who's a jealous god. You're a Wall Street trader. You really want to be a billionaire, and you experience the different passions at different times of the day, but you have this ongoing sort of motif that lasts for years of jealousy. You're jealous of the people who've already made it, and you want to make it. But then during the course of the day, somebody says something nasty to you, and you get angry, and you experience a bit of the hell realm, or somebody says something lovely to you, and you feel, wonderful, and you experience a bit of the God realm, or whatever it may be. So we move in and out of these realms at different levels. Meditation is about coming back from the realms, either the long-term realm or these short-term realms, the momentary experience of these passions. It's about coming back to pure awareness. And with shamatha, mindfulness practice, we use an object to bring us back from dreams of being a god or dreams of being in hell or whatever it may be. And we use an object, it could be the classic one in Buddhism is the breath. But if you've practiced transcendental meditation, you might have used a mantra. You can use anything really that's constant. You can use a candle flame or an image in front of you, a statue. Mantra and the breath are probably the most popular. And you come back from dreams of all kinds, and your dreams will be in your particular neurotic style, and you come back from them into pure awareness. So meditation is about experiencing, he says, reality and being as real as possible, coming back from the dreams of neurosis, the dreams of suffering, the dreams, even gods suffer, because gods, they're constantly thinking, have I got it made? Yes, I've got it made. Really? Yeah, really. And there's that constant flicker of doubt, which is their version of suffering, as opposed to a hell being who's seeing the threat to their very existence at every turn and every corner and everything in between. But with meditation, you're coming back from all of those dreams, if only for an instant, into awareness of something, the breath, if you're practicing shamatha meditation. If it's vipassana, you're coming back into awareness of this space, here and now. It says, first you need to tame your mind, and to do so, you use your subconscious thoughts as a starting point for working on yourself. We sit down, we see our thoughts, we let them go, and we come back to the object of meditation, be it the breath, be it a mantra, or be it this open space of this room here and now. So meditation practice is very ordinary. It's not about, he was very, back in the day when Trungpa Rinpoche was teaching, he was early in America, and America was full of all kinds of exotic spiritual trips. There was Yogi Bhajan teaching Kundalini, raising Kundalini up your spine, and all kinds of things. And he says it's not about kundalini or miracles or flying saucers or landing on your head. He said it's very ordinary, this meditation practice. It's about coming back to drinking this glass of water, to the feeling of your bottom on your cushion. And he says a key point is to develop sympathy for yourself. We're very hard on ourselves. We want to make ourselves better. In wanting to make ourselves better, we're cruel. Meditation is about accepting yourself, seeing yourself as you are. So you see your thoughts arising and passing away, your emotions arising and passing away, and you don't try to stamp them out, kill them, or change yourself. Awareness is the key. Simple awareness of your thoughts, your emotions, and the object of meditation, whatever that may be. When we see, there's sort of two modalities for being lost in thought, in mental events. One is that you're completely lost. You're in a dream. You don't even know you're dreaming. You're thinking, oh, what am I going to have for breakfast? Or, oh, that person is mean. I don't like them. They're going to, I'm going to get even with them. And how am I going to do it? And you're planning it out. And you're lost in the dream or whatever it may be. The other modality is that you see that dream. And the instant that you see it, you're no longer trapped in it. You can go back into it if you want. And so we often do. But at the instant that you realize you're dreaming, you're back in awareness. And you can and then the dream, as they say in the texts, will self-liberate. That is, it just goes poof, if only for an instant or longer. It dissolves because it was just a dream and you realize that you were dreaming. But then you may say, well, he really did do that to me and I got to get even. And then you're back in the dream. And then you realize, whoops, I'm lost in dream. I've lost track of my breath. I've lost track of the mantra that I was meditating on. And you let go of the dream and you come back. This is the process of meditation. And in the process of ceasing to beat yourself up and simply seeing that as another dream. One good dream is, I'm a terrible meditator. I'm never going to get anywhere, with this. That's a dream. And that's a very hard dream. That's a very nasty dream. You can have all kinds of nasty dreams about yourself and your world. And the point of meditation, one of the main things is you begin to develop sympathy, compassion for yourself by realizing that they are just dreams and letting them go. That fundamentally, you are fine. You are right here, right now. And we just get lost in self-criticisms or wishing things were otherwise. And those are very cruel. So part of meditation is to develop this sympathy for oneself. 2 points: sympathy for oneself by letting these criticisms go, and then clarity, seeing whatever is happening in your mind, in your world, with clarity. These are basic key points of meditation, and they're called developing prajna and compassion. Compassion for it begins with oneself, that you let yourself be as you are. So he says, you don't have to borrow anything or bring in any foreign influences into your life. Now, you might regard meditation itself as a foreign influence. It is at first, but really meditation is all about becoming aware of what's here now, in me, in my world, around me, not adding anything to it. No beliefs, absolutely no beliefs. Beliefs are anathema. They're a waste of time from a Buddhist perspective. You just are accomplishing awareness, and that awareness in allowing everything that you're aware of to be just what it is, whether it's your mind or your world, is compassionate, is gentle. Gentle awareness, they go together, two sides of the same coin. You can't have awareness without compassion. You can't have compassion without having awareness. They're in union. So he says, you're creating a very natural situation for yourself with mindfulness practice, with sitting practice. Very natural. You're just here, aware, open. We need to experience ourselves as we are, he says, something we have rarely done because we're continually trying to improve ourselves and our situation. We're trying to improve things either by, if it's attractive, we want to draw it to us. If it's threatening or unattractive, we want to push it away. And if it's neutral, we are indifferent to it. These are called the three poisons: passion, aggression, and stupidity or indifference. And we need to wake up from them. How? By coming into awareness. Awareness is the key. It's the cure for all that makes us crazy. So there are three aspects to sitting posture, which is teaching. Sitting posture is very important. Sitting meditation, is very important. It's kind of the lab experience. You can, as you begin to understand it more, especially Vipassana, insight meditation, you can begin to take it out into your daily life. It becomes meditation in action, and it will make you saner in the way in which you live your life and relate to other people. But in the beginning, we do it sitting on the cushion, and we do it continually. We never really let go of sitting practice. It's fundamental, it's core. He says it makes you into a true human being, having good head and shoulders, as opposed to being an ape or a banana. In Tibetan, they talk about the word for animal is dudro. Dudro means to go bent over. You walk bent over. A human being is erect, and that's why we always start our meditation with posture, assuming an erect posture. And the technique of meditation is to be spacious. We're not waiting for anything in particular. We're not expecting anything. We're just here, open, clear, intelligent, sharp, awake, aware of anything and everything that might present itself. This isn't a punishment. It isn't a reward. It's absolutely as it is, what it is. So he says you won't bring sudden bliss or a new relationship with this, with coming back to reality. You're on your own. He says, be alone. We're alone. Be lonely. He says, loneliness will make you resentful and horny. Horny? What does that mean? It means you want to have contact with the world. You want to engage. You want to consume it. You want to enjoy it. It's so beautiful as it arises in this space. And it'll make you cry and laugh at the same time. The joy, it's a hard, tough joy and appreciation. What it means is that as we come back into this present moment, there's a pleasure in the beauty and the vividness of things as they are, the color, the way in which as you scratch your head, you can feel that vividness of the sensation of scratching. You can see the blackness of the shirt. You can see, the color of the walls behind you, lit in the light, whatever it might be. All of this has a huge warmth. The sound of the voice, sound of music, whatever it might be. He says meditation practice, is like a medicine. It's bitter because you're cutting out the entertainment of neurotic thoughts, but it's good for you. You see, neurotic thoughts are so entertaining. You might have a thought about anger, and it keeps you engaged. You're angry at that person, you're going to get even. And then you concoct a whole scenario of revenge. So it's like you're living in a TV drama, and we do this throughout our days. Meditation is coming back from those TV dramas of the mind into simple awareness of what's happening now, here, present. And this becomes our motivation for practice. we're achieving sanity. We're coming back from the insanity of dreams. Dreams can be mild. They can also be really intense. Really, really turn your world upside down. Somebody that you love is angry at you, and it can break your heart, distort your mind. And we come back again and again. The only thing to do is to come back from the dream of regret, of sorrow, of loss, to this awareness of what is happening in the present moment. He talks about motivations for practice. And we've just been talking about that a lot now. One motivation is to learn more about yourself in meditation, because the more you practice, the more you understand your own neurosis and your own sanity. And you want to have your entire life, ultimately, coincide with practice, because it's coinciding with sanity and a greater appreciation for this world. Greater intelligence, greater understanding, and greater appreciation. And then he says, but the ultimate motivation is to develop your meditation in order to learn how to work with other people. Because what begins to happen is that you begin to see other people with more understanding. And at the same time, you resonate with them more, with heart, which is called compassion. And so the more you practice this of coming back into reality, coming back into openness, the more you are inspired to relate with other people, to understand them, to feel their hearts, and to communicate with that, which is really the action of sanity, of the Bodhisattva and of the Buddha. And we begin to develop that. He says, then you begin to develop Shinjang. Shinjang, he calls that here the sense of relaxation and joy that comes with sitting practice. In other contexts, Shinjang has to do with purifying yourself. Purifying yourself of what? Of neurosis. And having purified yourself, you experience relaxation and joy, the opposite of neuroticism. Neuroticism is all about effort to change things, and unhappiness, large or small unhappiness. Unhappiness means wishing things were otherwise. And that is what we're giving up with meditation and coming back into the clear awareness in this moment. He says motivation has to do with faith. Tepa in Sanskrit, in Tibetan. And this is connected with joy and humor. You have a sense of being, of existing. You are here and you are following a definite path. It's not blind faith. It's intelligence. It's waking up, coming back to this world. And so there's no quality of blind faith. There's only a quality of increasing intelligence and conviction that this is the real path. He says, on the whole, the practice of meditation is about being here precisely with joy and humor. What could be more real and sane than that? It's not goal-oriented. If you make it goal-oriented, you get back into craziness. Now you're pursuing some imagined goal and judging whether or not you're getting there. This is the constant sort of, enemy that we have in meditation, is the feeling that we have to do it right, that I'm not doing it right, that I could do it better. That goal orientation, that judgment, is antithetical to meditation. What we're coming back to is this natural state that's already here of intelligence and warmth and openness. But we can tend to lapse into goal orientation. And he says, the fact that you really have no idea of what is going to happen, no real idea about the goal, seems to be the saving grace. because you're cut loose. So basically, the motivation is the willingness to give in. Give in to what? Give in to this. It is the willingness to be open and work hard. It's the willingness to give in to this moment, here and now, to what I am, with all my imperfections. Then this next section is the last, is about cheering up. No, it's not quite the last. He says, we're working with a drunken elephant, me. I'm drunk on what? I'm drunk on my dreams, my passions. We have to make this elephant stay very still so that it can sober up. And that's what we are doing when we focus our mind one pointedly on the object like the breath, or even on vipassana, one pointedly openly on space. This is the way we have to work with ourselves, which says we're all crazy, including psychologists, animals, worms, and fleas. He had a low opinion of most psychologists. He felt they were trying to fix things, and trying to fix things is not it. How do we get out of that? Purely by sitting. By sitting, you become less crazy. You begin to develop more humor, more relaxation, and ultimately, more mindfulness. You're here, you're awake, aware of what's going on. And mindfulness depends on your cheerfulness. The idea of mindfulness in sitting practice is joyfulness. It is not a punishment for so-called sins. He used to sit there and he'd say, look out at us, and he'd say, please cheer up. Please cheer up. That over and over again to us. He said, if you regard spiritual discipline as punishment for having done something bad, then you're really in trouble. I'll go further. If you regard spiritual discipline as a form of self-improvement, you're in trouble. It's not. It's a coming back to our true nature. A giving up of the idea that anything is wrong with us and that we have to self-improve. There's a wrathful figure behind me on the wall. I bring it up. He's wrathful. He's a demon. He's got fangs. He's got multiple arms. He's the wrathful aspect of a great Tibetan teacher called Padmasambhava Baba. And what he is the idea that sometimes neuroticism, wanting things to be different, is so powerful that it takes extreme anger to cure you of it, to wake you up. That's what he represents, that extreme anger that is meant to cure extreme neurosis. And what is his main job? His main job is to slay a demon called the Gyalgan. And what the Gyalgan is the spirit of self-hatred, self-attack. That's his main job as the wrathful aspect of wisdom, to kill self-hatred, self-attack, the idea that I'm not good enough and I need to improve. It's the worst evil. If you do that to yourself, you're going to do it to everybody. And you won't be able to appreciate this beautiful world. So he says, the more relaxation and humor there is, the more you begin to understand. You get beyond that guy. He says there is less chatter due to the very fact that you don't suppress yourself. That seems to be the basic point, less suppression, less trying to change things to make them conform to some idea that you might have of what's good and bad. In order to attain freedom, you have to suppress yourself less. You do this by means of sitting practice. Isn't that an irony? I thought sitting practice was sort of like clomping down on ourselves. No, it's seeing everything that's going on in you clearly, with freedom. He says in the beginning it might be painful, but the end product is more enjoyable. And then I highlighted this. When the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, he wasn't tormenting himself. He was enjoying himself. For 6 years, he had a great time. He was under the Bodhi tree for about 7 weeks, but he was on this path for a number of years. The only time he had any second thoughts was when he spent 40 days wondering how he could communicate the joy he had experienced. The joy of what? The joy of self-acceptance and clear appreciation of life. He was not sure how people could be made to understand such joy and wakefulness. So it's a very joyful situation when the Dharma is presented. Once you're fully here with mindfulness awareness, it is known as holding Buddha in the palm of your hand. Buddha is right here. We're coming home to what we already were. And then finally, he concludes with the importance of practice, sitting meditation, among other things. There is no way one can attain freedom without sitting practice. To work with egolessness and ego, we need training in letting go of our ground, letting go of the purposefulness that we have, and coming back to this effortless awareness. There is a need for the rug to be pulled out from under our feet, and meditation is the only way to do that. Boredom is a great friend. It means that you're giving up, you're encountering a lack of entertainment. And the entertainment is always about making things better, getting rid of the worse. In the early stages of the Hinayana journey in particular, the sitting practice of meditation is regarded as the one and only way to attain peace. If there's no sitting practice, there is no way at all of getting beyond the problem of ego. Because everything we do will be co-opted by our desire to improve things. That is the great tool that ego uses. He says, meditation has to be considered the most important and best thing you do. And then he talks about how, he felt that as regrettable as the communist invasion of Tibet was, basically moving centuries of Buddhist practice, that nonetheless it saved Buddhism from an early death, from a corrupt death. He felt that Buddhism was losing its heart, and that people were becoming, just going through the motions. Without the practice of meditation, nothing can happen, so we must sit. Without sitting, there is no hope, he says. He goes over and over again. Sitting practice is not always going to be smooth, pleasant, comfy, and nice. It's also going to be very painful and boring. There's two kinds of boredom. Hot boredom, which is what you encounter at the beginning of your practice. You feel like you can't even sit there anymore. And cool boredom, where you're bored, but you can sit, and it's almost kind of refreshing. We do these practices, group meditation practices called Datun, where you sit in a group for a month. Rinpoche was basically adapting the Zen practice of Sesshin, which he loved. He saw at Tassajara, the Zen Mountain Center, when he went to visit Suzuki Roshi there. And he adapted it and called it Datun, which means month-long sitting practice. And when you're in a Datun, when you're directing a Datun or leading it, you know that there's going to be someone probably who simply can't sit. The boredom is too intense and their mind too active, and it picks them right up off the cushion and moves their legs out the door. Not too many people, but some. So he says meditation practice is not always going to be smooth, pleasant, and comfy. It's also going to be painful. However, whether you're experiencing pain or pleasure, what is really needed is the subtle humor of someone standing behind your back, willing to kick you off the cliff. And I think he was thinking then of, again, in Sesshin at Tassajara, the people who go around and everybody's facing the wall, and sometimes they'll see a person sleeping and they whack them with a stick. Sitting is very dull. It's very ordinary and very simple. And because of that, it's very precious. It seems to be the best idea that humankind ever came up with. And the first person to have that idea was the Buddha himself. He knew how to handle us, even in the 20th century. His logic never dies. And so we can have a discussion about this. If you'd like. Can we go back to the other view? Yeah, spotlight. Here we go. Comments, complaints, disagreements, whatever you like. Fred.
My first initial experience of meditation was a lot of just physical pain, and it, sort of had to turn that pain into like the object of meditation. And have you ever experienced with that, or did Chögyam Trungpa ever talk about that?
Yes, he did, and I have too. Sure. You should not indulge or endure ongoing pain. If you do, and you have physical problems with your body that cause that kind of thing, adjust. Sit in a chair, do whatever it takes, because it becomes a distraction and a form of ambition, you might say, like you're going to be heroic, and endure the pain. No, don't do it. If you have a little bit of pain, if you just observe it, sometimes it goes away. Sometimes it's a trick of the mind, and you might sit through it, depending on the individual. I'm speaking out everybody. Your mind can trick you, and then you sit through it and suddenly it's gone. And you might experiment with that. But basically, you're not meant to be a martyr to pain. No. So if you're sitting there and you're in half lotus and your foot's going to sleep and your leg is killing you, move. Shift your legs. Definitely. Or whatever it takes. Sit in a chair. Sit in whatever. I did a Daton once with a guy who did the whole Daton in a reclining couch. His back and legs were shot. He couldn't sit in a normal chair. So he was constantly reclining at a 45-degree angle, and he did the whole Daton, month-long sitting practice. Yes, whatever it takes. Who else? And Philip, if you have any comments, feel free to jump in. You're muted. You're muted. There you go.
I want to apologize. We had an electric storm come through here and it took out the internet.
Yeah, it's all your fault. You should apologize.
Things are sketchy in Vermont.
Yeah, getting sketchy everywhere.
I got a follow up about the subtle meditation pain. This morning, I had back pain 3 days, right? And just meditating through it, I'm like, okay, it's not terrible, right? I could sit through it. And then I realized, I'm like, oh, like there's like a grasping to it, or trying to fix it or change it with like a physical pain, and then it went away after that. Is that, is it
experiment?
Yeah.
There are no rules.
It's not always that simple, but it seems to be like that's the formula. Like some things might be stickier and some might not be.
Our minds play tricks, and you have to experiment with it to find out if that's what's happening, using your intelligence. It may be that you can sit in a good prescribed meditation posture for some period of time, every sitting, and then you need to switch into something kinder to your body because you've got physical problems. Is it okay? I mean, Fred does have some physical problems with his legs from damage. Is that okay? I said that. So he's working with the situation. And you work with it. Anybody else? Paul? Or anybody have any comments? For me or for Philip? Judy?
I'm so glad I tuned in tonight. Just what I needed to hear. Again, what was said about the hungry ghost realm and all the realms being visited at different times. It really was a big help to realize that we all go through those realms at different times. And I was getting up a big mad at Herb for getting COVID more or less on purpose and landing himself in the hospital and now in a rehab and ruining our plans, all our plans for the summer. And I was going to fix him. I was going to go no matter what. And I really got some insight on that with the relation to the other in the realms. So hopefully I'm liberated for the moment in seeing that. Thank you.
Yeah, we tell ourselves such stories.
Oh.
Really.
Yeah, I would second that, Judith. One of the words that comes up over and over again is freedom. And one of the beautiful things of Buddhism is that it teaches us that we create our reality with our minds. And
for sure.
And that gives us a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
We don't have to be slaves to our delusions.
Exactly.
Well, yes, it looks like.
Yes, very much not. I live in a delusional world a lot of the time, so I felt that.
Don't we all? Absolutely. I was going through a big one this afternoon.
What happened?
Damn family. Sam Damley.
Emily?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, really hard.
That's the great temptation. Mm.
It was Yogananda Paramahansa said that friends are given us to love us and family is given to us to test us.
Did he say that?
Autobiography of a Yogi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mahansa Yogananda. One of the first Dharma books I ever read.
Me too.
Yeah, right.
Me too.
High school, I think it was required reading, maybe.
Oh, really?
You went to a good high school.
Yeah, wow.
It was recommended to me by Ram Dass. Remember him?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Sure.
Mm.
A reading list from him. That was one of the big books on it.
Are you talking about Autobiography of a Yogi?
Yep.
Yeah.
I never read that one.
Oh,
Yeah. My brother was an actor at Carnegie Tech, and he wrote me that he was studying yoga by mail from the Self-Realization Fellowship of Paramahansa Yogananda in LA, I think. Definitely.
Yeah, it's still there.
Is it?
Yeah.
And he told me he was going to get enlightened by mail. And I didn't know what enlightenment was. I didn't know what yoga was. And I was wandering around in the West Village in New York one day, about 1968, and I saw this poster on a telephone pole, a bearded, bald guy, and it said, Baba Ramdas, Korean Dr. Richard Alpert, lecturing on Ashtanga Yoga. So I figured I'd find out what my brother was up to and listen to one of my favorite LSD gurus. And I went and heard, and my whole life changed.
Wow.
He was terrific, Ramdas. He was so funny and so intelligent and so effacing. It was really fun. Who else? The importance of meditation. It really is so fundamental. And the more we meditate, the more it becomes a part of our being, natural. We begin to relax and accept ourselves and our world. You see, as we move on in the teachings, you're going to discover that in Buddhism, they distinguish between two fundamental kinds of consciousness. There is neurotic consciousness, which is full of thought and emotion. It's called Sem in Tibetan. In the Zen tradition, they call it little mind, and in the Soto Zen tradition. And then there is what is called Yeshe in the Tibetan tradition, which means wisdom. In the Soto Zen tradition, it's called big mind. Now, big mind, you see, is here all the time. It never shuts off. It's here in your awareness of everything that you're aware of. It's like the sky. Clouds come and go in the sky. Birds cross the sky, but the sky is always there. The sun comes up and the sky gets blue. The sun goes down and the sky goes black, but it's always there, this awareness. It's just the contents of it that change. When we come to this path, we're focused on the contents. We're focused on the clouds, on the birds, as it were. And we are not even aware, really, of the sky. We're not paying attention to it. And what this path is about directing us back to that fundamental awareness, the sky, and letting go of belief in these very transitory little phenomena that come and go, our thoughts. I mean, do you remember what you were thinking 5 minutes ago? Probably not. But the sky, this awareness, is always here. It's called, they translate it variously into English, wisdom. What else, Philip? I can't think. Yeshe, Rigpa is often translated as insight awareness.
Dhammadhatu.
In the Kagyu tradition, they call it ordinary mind, meaning it's this. It's ordinary. It's here all the time. In all traditions, it's called wisdom, though, because it's without delusion. Delusion lies in the little thoughts, the birds that fly across the sky. And so this path is really about beginning to see the difference and to switch our allegiance. It takes a while. And sitting meditation is key. Because we see our thoughts and we let them go and come back to awareness.
John,
Don.
I have a question. I should know this by now, but it just keeps falling out of my head, I guess, because I've heard you use the term several times, switching our allegiance. Can you Specifically, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like letting go of like self-improvement projects, or what do you mean?
Yeah, yeah. Our allegiance is to all of these self-improvement projects, or all the emotions that always have to do with I want, I hope, I fear, I'm going to get, I have this ambition, I. And I have this project. And instead, we begin to switch our allegiance to this open, clear awareness, which is full of appreciation, intelligence, heart, and also a kind of skill, because we can relate to the beings in this world in a way that appeals to their sanity and intelligence and heart, instead of appealing to their neuroticism and ours. So we're switching our allegiance from ignorance to sanity. That's what Trungpa called it. From, you might say, little mind, the mind of thinking mind, the mind of emotions and discursive thoughts, from that to this big mind, Yeshe in Tibetan, means primordial knowing. Primordial because it's always here, it's always been here. It's been here without beginning. You can't find the beginning to this. Can you find the beginning to this space that we're in? No. Where did it begin? Where does it end? And this space is one with that kind of primordial Yeshe, big mind. And we're switching our allegiance to that, and it's full of appreciation for the beauty and the transience, the utter transience of everything that arises in this world, in this space of awareness. The transience of thought, the transience of that tree that's moving and changing all the time in front of me. Clouds drifting across the sky. Philip, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's hard to put into words, but part of the switch of allegiance is awareness. So we start off thinking that awareness is like this individual consciousness. So in a room of 100 people, 100 people are each thinking, I'm the most important person in the room. Of course, that's mathematically impossible. But each person has that awareness. But clearly there's a flaw in that thinking. So as you go further and further into Buddhism, you begin to suspect that the awareness, the consciousness, the mind is not contained within yourself. That's just a structure you've created across your life, and maybe necessarily so as a young kid. So we talk a lot about dismantling ego, and sometimes you even hear the expression, kill your ego. And yet the psychologist will talk about how important ego is for a little kid, and it does really noble work for, I don't know, 10 years, 12 years. But then after that, it's like you outgrow it. But you're also stuck with its concepts. You're stuck with thinking that mind is limited to me. Mind is limited to like inside this skull. And I'm becoming convinced that that's not true at all, that that's absolutely 100% wrong. That you can sit down and look at a mountain, for instance, and understand that the mountain and me and the connection is all one unit. And you can't really say where I start and where I end, or where the mountain starts and the mountain ends. And that extends from me to you and from me to John. So it sounds nuts, really, to say we have the same mind or the same consciousness. But I am becoming more and more and more convinced that ultimately that will prove to be true, that we have that in common, whatever word you want to put on it. And there are a million different words, and people use them differently. And the words really get in the way. But that primordial, basic, underlying awareness, consciousness, intelligence, whatever you want to call it, is not limited to each of us as an individual. Instead, that's shared. And it's not just shared among humans, it's shared among every living, breathing, thinking creature on the planet. And it's not even limited to the planet. So it does sound nuts to talk about it. And Buddhists are fond of saying it's beyond concept, it's beyond thought, it's beyond words. And it is. And if you try to describe it in words, half of your audience thinks there's medication he can take for this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Judy.
What you were saying about words really struck me today, meditating. I noticed that when I could drop words, I could come into now much better. As soon it was putting thoughts into words that I could drop and be more purely in the moment.
Exactly right. And words go to feelings, which go to emotions. And they are so individual and they're so much in our way. And they're like blinders. So we are enlightened when we talk about being Buddhist. And, and we think, well, yeah, that's probably true, but I don't feel it. But in fact, we do. Every time we come back in sitting meditation, every time we come back from a thought, there is that nanosecond, that microsecond, that instant of enlightenment. What do we call it? A gap, if you want. It's just there. It's that awareness without Judith, without Philip, without John, without Don. And yet we all have that. And I believe it's possible, and this is what Michael was talking about, and Ergian talks about this. It's possible to learn to recognize that. It's possible to learn to expand that little by little, bit by bit. That's what enlightenment is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really felt in touch when I just would drop the words.
Yeah. And it's so hard for us to leave out all of our judgmental preconceptions. Somebody walks into the room for an instant, there's that accurate experience, limited by our sense organs, but it's like shape and color. But instantly we start putting our perceptions on that, our judgments, our histories, our emotions, the three kleshas: passion, aggression, indifference. I'm attracted to that person. I should run away from this person. I don't really care about this person. But none of that has anything to do with reality. That's like this old ego thing that you had when you were 7 years old.
Merrick has her hand up.
I would like to say something about this on 181, something that made me think, and I don't even know exactly. It says the motivation to, it's about understanding how you came to be practicing and why it's very important, which I just, because I've been on this path 2019, since 2019, kind of going and then just coming out of it. And then today I just sat down and asked, and at the end of the day, there is this, I understand that's paradoxical though, to me, you mentioned it's all about ambitions and goals and just trying to, kind of improve ourselves. But the paradox is, to me, when I actually meditate, when I actually have the, kind of awareness of my thoughts and have the ability to actually have the ability to give the right response, or, kind of tag along with the thought, or just not, definitely, I believe, makes me a better person. So it's not the goal, yes, but it does, because in the sense of why am I doing all this? I mean, I am someone obviously like with a lot of anxiety. And it's just, especially now I have a 17-year-old son, and my anxieties are just every day, like kind of more and more each day. That's why it's I do work on like kind of constantly just, okay, take a deep breath, watch it, just and letting go of control. And there is all those aspects to this practice to me. And at the end, I think it was Viktor Frankl who said there is, like between stimulus and response, there is this space. And I think that's this whole thing to me is that, between that stimulus and response, the seeing that space and taking that space, and having the ability to see the presence of that space so I can just do whatever I need to do, which I think ultimately it makes us better humans. That taking up that space. I don't know. I think I'm just anyway. Thank you for listening.
That's exactly right. I have a 17-year-old son too. So that space, you want to expand that space and you want to live there. It's little by little, bit by bit, step by step.
Yeah. And I have one more question, John. I'm sorry, completely. Can you please name that, like a kind of God behind you?
That's Dorje Trollo.
Okay.
Dorje.
Okay, say it again.
Dorje.
Okay.
Trollo, Trollo. That's one way to transliterate the Tibetan. And
Is it the one fighting with like
neurosis? Yeah, the Yelgon.
yeah, the self-hatred? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
his name literally means indestructible, wrathful one.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Fred, you'll be the last here. You're almost out of time.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to, Don's point about, changing allegiance with meditation. With meditation practice, I find, you could sort of see where the allegiance is by if you actually look at where the resistance is, to just all distractions and reasons not to meditate. It's like, oh, I gotta pick up this piece of paper over here. Oh, there's a mess over here. Oh, there's something to do here. And you're always finding something to avoid that the butt on the cushion. Because, what I think what it comes down to ultimately is that we're addicted to these neurotic patterns for some sick reason. I don't know why, but it just seems to be there. And I don't quite understand how the meditation works, but it helps to come back and change that allegiance from this neurotic pattern and habit of addicting to like self-flagellation and aggression and passion and all that. That's all I got there.
Thank you.
Sure.
So it's time. I'm going to put the chants up. These are the closing chants. And again, those of you who are new, you can do it or not as you wish. And I'll mute all. Let's see. Who's Don? You want to lead? You don't have your con. Or who else is a chanter here?
It'll take me about 20 seconds to get it if you want to wait.
That's okay. I'll do it.
Okay.
So So we'll close with a prayer for peace, and then by dedicating the merit generated through our practice to the benefit of all sentient beings. By the blessings of enlightened and compassionate ones, by the power of my positive actions of 3 times and my prayers of pure aspiration, may wars, conflicts, epidemics, and all other maladies dissolve in this world, and may the earth and all who live on this earth enjoy the abundance of well-being. May all learn to live lovingly with each other. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigden's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Well, thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Good
Thank
to
you
meet
all.
you.
Bill,
Good to
thanks,
meet you,
John.
Carla, and
Thank you.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good to see you,
Night.
Tony. Okay, bye-bye.
Let me know if you need my recording.
I'll let you know. Thanks, Barry.